Hi, welcome to Basement Apartment DIY. I recently did a video with Mike Miller, a successful local businessman, and he has some really good insights into how he's run his basement apartment business the last 3 years. This is part 2 of the 2-part video. The first part can be easily found. It has the same thumbnail. You seem pretty good. Like your rent's not too expensive. I mean, it's definitely fair for.
Every single one of my friends who bought a house had a mother-in-law apartment was, like, look at the numbers on this. I don't want to mess with it because you make your neighbor mad. Anybody gets it out for you, that's the first thing they're going to go after, is to try to turn you in for having an illegal apartment. For me, it's way more worth it to wait for the right person with the right situation, with the right personality. And I had a guy who seemed totally with it, seemed great, and he had been evicted. He'd had late payments. If you're not paying me rent, you're borrowing the money from me, and I'm not your friend. I'm your landlord.
So where did you first get the idea to want to be a landlord? I guess because you wanted a big house, you kind of thought, is that your thought process?
Yeah, and I had friends who were realtors, and I had friends who owned houses that had, mother-in-law apartments, and every single one of my friends who bought a house had a mother-in-law apartment was, like, look at the numbers on this, all the interest and most of your escrow and taxes are covered by your tenant, and you're basically paying into a forced savings account in equity in your home.
So then you're not throwing money away.
Exactly.
Interest is.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody loses in Utah the last 4 to 5, 10 years.
Yeah,
it's been crazy.
And I basically live for free, in my house. But I mean, I still have to pay the principal on my mortgage. But as long as your house doesn't go down in value,
that's a good way to think about it.
You just got a forced savings account there that you're putting money into.
Which I keep wondering if I want to buy another house myself for my kids or whatever when they get bigger. I'm hoping it's going to dip a little bit, but I don't know if it will,
Right.
And then if I never buy it and it never dips, I'm going to be like, shoot, I should have just bit the bullet and bought.
Yeah.
So I find that most people that rent a basement apartment have somebody that's close to them, or a lot of people will be like realtors themselves. Or there's a lot of builders that build their own. So anyway, I was just wondering what your connection was. So do you remember how much you've charged? And you charge $12.50 now?
Yeah.
Have you charged $12.50 all 3 years?
No, the first guy paid $12.50 because he was just a higher. It was him, his girlfriend, and his daughter, and they had the storage room, so they paid $12.50. The next tenant. I don't know, it was just a weird time, but I wasn't getting any calls at $12.50, so I lowered it to $1,100, and then my next tenant paid $1,100 for a year and 4 months, and then I went back up to $12.50 because we're 2 years later basically, and rent's just gone up. So
yeah, I did. I noticed that you had a storage room.
Yeah.
And that's like an optional thing. It's a big room.
Yeah.
Is it one of those cold storage deals, or?
It's not. It's just a framed out room in the basement, but it is a basement, so it definitely doesn't get hot in there.
So it's an extra room that you don't necessarily use.
Yeah, it's 12 by 15. It's
and
huge.
So you just you said it was $75.
Yeah. And basically my pitch is if you got a storage unit you're paying for, just pull everything out of the storage unit, put it in here.
Definitely.
And then you're not dealing with it, and you don't have to travel to get it, and you got all this extra room in your apartment, you're not cramped. It doesn't affect me because I don't use it.
Yeah.
I don't have enough stuff, so.
Just don't let them. One time my daughter I have an older daughter that lost her apartment, and she put a bunch of like food and stuff in my shed, and then got tons of mice. It was pretty awful. You ever thought about if you had to evict somebody? You have friends and stuff that probably have.
I have a rental agreement that's like used I have a friend who does like rentals as his job, and so I took his rental agreement and just changed out his name for mine. And so we have, I've got like a 6-page document that goes over all the different situations where if you violate these are the penalties, late payment, eviction, all those things are spelled out in a contract that they initial and sign by those things.
What would you do if somebody was late? I guess it depends on how long, if they've lived there a year and they're late versus the first month.
Yeah. There's just a late payment penalty in there.
I think it's definitely smart to.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of smart people. If you don't charge the late fee, then then it just goes downhill, and
Yeah. Yeah. So we just I've never had somebody not pay yet. I think helps though that I am, maybe if it was a rental that was off site, I think maybe I'd see that more. But you see me regularly when you're my tenant. You pass by each other. So like, if you're not paying, I'm gonna see you.
They can also give you their sob story, but
yeah,
it doesn't sound like that's going to go too. I mean,
no.
I think you got to be professional. And,
Yeah.
Even if you're I mean, obviously this channel's about basement apartments, and
Yeah.
People can get into a sob story and get. I think it's important to be professional. You don't know, and you can be understanding too, right? I mean.
Yeah, my thing is if you need the money bad enough, you can find somebody that will give it to you. If you aren't chronically, if you're late on payments everywhere, and you borrowed money from everyone you know and burnt all those bridges, and you're late on rent with me, I know that money's never coming, and so I'd rather have you just move out. Because there should be somebody that you can borrow the money from if you're behind, and it's not me. Because if you're not paying me rent, you're borrowing the money from me, and I'm not your friend. I'm your landlord. So I'm not loaning you the money.
Let's see. How do you collect rent?
Whatever they want. There's a lot of electronic payment systems now, so you can use Venmo, direct deposit into Chase. They could give me cash, they can give me a check. I don't care. It's all. I don't have a set system.
Okay.
Generally, people prefer Venmo though because it's easy.
Venmo's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've never used Venmo myself. I'm a little bit, I'm not that with it on stuff like that. But it's they don't charge you a fee, right?
No, yeah, it's free.
It's debit, so it's free for everybody.
Yeah.
And obviously everybody uses it, so everybody knows it's legit.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a question I have is some of these companies that accept it, would there be fraud? Or there's probably a small chance of that, but Venmo is,
Yeah. The other thing Venmo does is it keeps a record. So like, if you're like, did I get paid last month? You forgot to check. You just click on the history between you and them, and it shows you every payment that's gone back and forth between them.
I think that's good. I like that how you have somebody you got your lease from. Is it? You say it's like 6 pages your lease?
I think so. It's between 3 and 6. It might be 4.
So that's not terrible. I've seen.
Yeah.
Before I've gotten leases from like eviction attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
They they're like 10 or plus pages and kind of a little too legal for me.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to get a lease if you have a friend that's in the business,
Yeah, just use an existing one that's been tried and true.
Do you do any regular inspections? Like if somebody was there a long time?
It depends. Like my last girl, she was just great. Like we never had any issue, no disagreement. She paid her rent on time. The fuse panel for my house is in the basement, so I have to go down there once every couple months anyways because the furnace and everything's in there, so I have to swap the filters out.
So that's kind of convenient. You just take a peek.
Yeah, and honestly, like.
And I've heard that's the best kind of inspection. Just like that's a good reason to go down there, and you're not getting in their business. You just you can see if there's anything weird going on.
And you can always smell your basement apartment. Like it's right below my kitchen, so I can smell the if they're cooking food, whatever. I know, and so like if you're getting a weird smell from down the basement, and that's a really easy way to kind of keep track of if anything's really gone awry down there. And I have leak sensors. And I don't know how many people, would do this, but I've got leak sensors in my basement. I've got smart log immediately know because they'll text my cell phone if the leak sensor gets wet.
How much? I've never heard of that. Is a leak sensor pretty simple?
Yeah, it's just like a little $35 brick you set on the floor. It ties into any smart home system, and
so you have a smart home system already.
Yeah, and so I can tell if the door's been open, left unlocked. All that stuff. I can text them, hey, your door's been unlocked for, 3 days, and I think you're just, if they're gone or whatever, it alerts me to let me know.
How does the leak sensor work? Does it?
If it gets wet, it just goes off.
So you'd put it under the sink?
Yeah, under the washer and dryer.
And you pay the $35 once, and then you're done, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's just you buy the sensor.
So you could put, that's pretty cool. You could put one under the bathroom, kitchen sink, and washer dryer.
Yeah.
You'd be pretty covered.
I have cameras around my house too, so if I ever did have an issue with a tenant who was dodging me, I can just set my cameras up to let me know when there's movement, and then I'll know when they got home. So, yeah.
That's kind of that's next level.
Yeah, I'd be hard to, and they're not for that, but they could be used for that, right?
Yeah. No, that's cool.
And
yours is legal. Did you make it legal then?
Yes. Yeah.
And what did that cost you? I know because I
over
live.
$1,500.
Yeah, I paid the $1,500 also.
Because it was before. They've upped it to like 4,500
Yeah.
bucks now, though.
So in our city, they gave like a grace period, 1,500, and it went up to 45. So I think the 45.
That's exclusionary.
That's a lot of money.
Years of rent.
Yeah, well, not years.
Oh, sorry, no, months.
Months
I mean,
of
months
rent.
of rent. Yeah,
But yeah, that's enough that it's kind of a. I wouldn't want to pay it too much.
yeah,
But there's, I think it's common. Everybody knows that there's probably more illegal apartments
Yes.
than legal ones.
yeah.
But it's not. It's nice to be legal.
I don't want to mess with it because you make your neighbor mad. Anybody gets it out for you. That's the first thing they're going to go after is to try to turn you in for having an illegal apartment.
So I was illegal in another city when I
Mhm.
lived there, just because they didn't allow it. And then I don't know if I would have been illegal or not, because my brother-in-law lives in the apartment and I live in the, so I don't know if that would have been illegal or not. But
Yeah.
Lehigh was pretty stingy there. 5 years ago, you couldn't have two kitchens. They really were weird about it. I think that's about it. Anything else? This channel's to help people with basement apartments. So anything else that I think we covered quite a few things, but
Second mailbox. You want to make sure that your renters have a mailbox because you don't want to be sorting through and delivering their mail to them all the time.
is there any?
Lighting.
Obviously, you just put basement and upstairs on your mailbox, right?
There's just we have a community box. So there's separate boxes for. Just like I'm 12, they're 13.
Oh, did you had to go through the post office to get that then?
Yeah, you just got to apply for it.
And they didn't give you any trouble about it. I mean, it's pretty
No.
standard thing.
Yeah, and then I'm big on liability. So like, ice melt, making sure you shovel. Keep their walkway clean, and then lighting.
Mhm.
My basement apartment goes around the side of my house and down the stairs. And I didn't want to ever end up in a situation where they could say that something happened to it because it wasn't properly lit or whatever. So motion sensor lights are $60, and you can put in 2 or 3. So the entire way to the apartment, as you walk past, the lights come on for 20, 30 seconds. That way it doesn't annoy my neighbors, but it makes sure that everything is safe going all the way around the house on their way.
Yeah, I like the ones that stay on all the time. Of course, there's if it's in your neighbor's window or something, maybe, but
Yeah.
literally, I think it's 10 watts. So if it was on half the year, I think it would cost you $5 a year or something.
Yeah.
I think a watt costs you $1 a year if it was on the whole, continuously. So really, there's no reason not to have good lighting, whether you motion sensor or
Yeah.
they just stay on when it's dark. The light sensor ones.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, no real tips. Just I mean, it's been great. I haven't had a bad situation yet that I can really give advice on because everything's just been super easy and super nice, and people have been chill. So I've loved it.
How does the rent? I don't know if you mind telling me how much you pay on your mortgage, but how does it compare to your mortgage?
Mortgage is $2,900, so yeah, I paid $1,700 or so.
Not bad.
Yeah, but interest on my mortgage is like $700 a month.
Do you have a 15-year mortgage?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of high. Okay,
Yeah.
he's got a 15-year mortgage. That's why it's high.
Yeah.
Okay, that's smart though.
Yeah, and I'll own my house in like 8. I have 8.5 years or 9 years left because I overpay quite a bit as well, just because I like the idea of owning the house. So.
I do too.
And the basement apartment, basically, I put everything for the basement apartment toward principal every month.
Nice. You're keeping the money in your own pocket.
Yeah.
You're not just blowing the money. All that basement apartment money, he's got it. He's got it right now.
Yep. We're
Anyway,
retire on it.
Thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
And it's been Basement Apartment DIY. Thank you for watching.